Welcome to episode 21 of my enrolled agent career. I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. We have another special guest, but I didn't warn you a couple of weeks ago when it was going to just be me. And I was like, they're so used to having these amazing guests I've had on. They're not going to want to just listen to me. But the feedback was that you all enjoyed the training with how to start the enrolled agent firm and those 5 things that you need clarity on so that you can go and be successful in that. So I appreciate you for reaching out and letting me know. But tonight is most definitely going to be a treat. So, with our guest, this person not only is an enrolled agent, I would go so far as to say a serial entrepreneur coming from a big four accounting firm as a mother, wife, and then rocking it in the enrolled agent firm. It is my pleasure. We're going to be going to Ohio tonight to bring on tonight's special guest, Mrs. Anisha Bailey, EA.
Hey.
Hey, thank you so much, Anisha, for being here. It is crazy to me that you are right up the road in Ohio, and I still have not made it up there, but we're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. So, I appreciate you being here. We're going to get into it on the podcast. Some of the things that you were doing right now, like I said, in the enrolled agent community and even within your own firm. So I know your time is precious, especially we're headed right up to extension season, which means people will be getting those notices soon and Taxley will be busy. So I'm grateful for you.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to our chat today.
Awesome. So I always start off with this question. How did you find out about the enrolled agent designation and what made you decide to sit for the exam?
So I found out about the designation probably like in 2007, 2008 timeframe. I was in school because I had graduated with a degree in marketing. And then I was like, I'm not going to get the kind of job I wanted. So I went back to get the credits that I needed to sit for the CPA exam. So I, went in and did all my accounting courses. And when I did the accounting courses and I took my first tax course, I knew that I wanted a career in tax. And usually when you do accounting, you have 2 tracks. You either go tax or you go audit. And especially if you want to work in like a big four or something like that. And so I was like, tax is my thing. And it was my thing because I just knew it was practical to people's everyday lives. And
Mm-hmm.
it was going to be, to me, it would be more impactful in the way that I wanted to be impactful than maybe audit. Right. And so I was asking my professors, like, hey, I don't necessarily want to do the CPA exam because like 10% of it is tax and the rest of it is stuff I don't care to test on. And so they were giving all kind of suggestions that CFP and go ahead and do the CPA and all these. And I'm just like, I have no. So I went to, I think I went to Barnes and Noble and I had gotten a book on how to become a tax consultant. And um, and it was by, I believe it was by a CPA, the book, the author. And in that book was the first time I ever saw the term enrolled agent. So it was like, you could be a CPA. If you want to be a tax consultant, you could be a CPA, you could be an attorney, you could be an enrolled agent. I was like, wait a minute, what is that? So I looked it up and I kept looking it up and I was like, this is it. This is it. And so when I learned that the test was 100% in tax law, that meant for me, who, like you said, I was a single mom at the time, and I didn't have a lot of time I didn't have a lot of time to waste. And I had already went back to school and I met the requirements for the CPA exam. I did all of that. I submitted the paperwork and I even got my CPA exam materials. And when I was like, I don't want to do this. And so to learn about the enrolled agent license through that book, I was just like, all right, great. And so that was the start for me. And it wouldn't be until 2011 until I uh, prepared for the exam, and and I passed all the exams on the first try. And I was so nervous though. I was so nervous. I mean, like full disclosure, I cried like a baby the first test because
Oh.
so much so my husband was like, "Oh my gosh, what is wrong?" And I was just like, and it was the fear of failure. And so,
Hmm.
and I was just like, if I fail, then I might be proving people right, And so I was just so distraught. And my husband was like, "Look, he does not eat cream of wheat. I love cream of wheat, right? So he does not eat hot cereal." He said, "If you when you pass the exams, I'll eat a bowl of cream of wheat with you." The next morning, I got up, took the exam, passed the first one, and I came home like I passed it. He was like, "I mean, good job, but I gotta eat this now." So then I went ahead and I passed all three. In 2011, at the beginning of 2012, I got my license, and my goal was to have it by the time I was 30. And so it was like 2 weeks before my 31st birthday, I had my license.
Awesome. So you brought up some stuff I wasn't planning on going this way, but I have a couple of questions for you. So when we've talked before, we've talked the transition of like public accounting to having an EA firm. I didn't realize that's how you found out about the EA designation, though. And that I'm going to say kudos to you again for what you're doing about bringing awareness about the designation. I went into college, I'm going to take the CPA exam. Even after my tax class, I was like, this is cool. I don't want to do that. Got to the CPA firm and fell in love.
Mm,
And it was all the exposure. But similar to you, I was like, this test ain't got nothing to do with what I want to do.
mm,
Now, for the people listening, remember she said back in 2008, I was in school in 2008. And then when I finished my first season with the firm I was with was 2011. The test hadn't changed yet. There was no tax track. So it was
mhm,
like
mhm.
this ain't it. What do I gotta find? But something you mentioned, which I know you've had to deal with as a firm owner as well, was the fear of failure. How did you get out of your head? Because essentially that's what it is, the fear of
Mhm.
failure and what other people will think. How did you get out of your head to prepare for the exam?
So, so I think back then, in 2011, my kids were like 8 and 11, and so to to take that exam back then, my motivation was taking care of them. And I was
Mhm.
newly married in 2011 too, so I just had a lot of ambition. And so that drove me. But the night before I had to take the exam is when that fear set in,
I
because it was
got you.
quiet. It was quiet. It was time to go to bed, and then it just all came, right. And so, but for me, I think what drove me to not focus on that while I was studying for exam and all of that, um, was just because just my upbringing was in a negative way, like, so much doubt of my potential. And
Mhm.
so that me being like fearful in the quietness of the night before the exam, um, was that coming back, right? And so it's like you, and then it's like you have to push through it. And I think the thing that like really grounds me in pushing through stuff like that is just knowing that God didn't see me to get this far just to let me just be a loser and a
There it
failure,
is.
things like that. So I'm just like, you know, let God prove what he wants to me to everybody else. It's like, I don't, so those things also help me to keep moving forward as well. So, and push through those fears.
Awesome. Because I know myself as a firm owner too. I knew that wasn't the only time you had to deal with it, and I knew it had to be a little bit more than the promise of eating a bowl of cream of wheat with you to
But
help you overcome that.
I was so shocked that he even offered that it calmed me down almost immediately because it was so shocking because he is so against it that I was just like, you believe in me that much that you would even support me in that way, you know? So, you know, with those little quirky things that matter.
Awesome. So you've overcome the fear of failure, self doubt, passed the exam. I hope he did eat that bowl of cream of
He
wheat with
did
you.
3
Uh,
bowls.
oh, wow. Oh, one for each exam.
Mhm.
All right, sir. You got it done before your 31st birthday. When did you know you wanted to start your own firm, though? Was that always the goal, or was it something that you realized later?
So that was always the goal to be self-employed. So when took the exam, I was already I had already left corporate because I left corporate in 2008. And I had already, and when I was at corporate, it was a part of, you know, their thing was, hey, take the CPA exam. And I even presented to them, hey, since I'm in the tax department, can I take the EA exam? And that wasn't acceptable at that time. And
Mm.
so, so I left, and my thing at that point was, if I got to work 80 hours a week as a single mom, well, I could probably do that at home and at least
Right.
let my children see other possibilities other than having to do 9 to 5s because you can see that all day. And so, I always knew I wanted to do my own thing. I did plan to stay in corporate a little bit longer than I did, but you know, it didn't, it wasn't going to be, it wasn't a good fit for me, my lifestyle as a single mom, but then also just my values, it didn't align. Um, so I always wanted to have my own firm. I just didn't think I was going to start it as soon as I did. And, and then and then I didn't realize how much, because before I started my firm, I was not going out networking or anything. But as
Mm.
soon as you start your own thing, you get out there, shake hands, kiss babies, how you doing, all that. And so that's what brought me out from like my own little shell.
Okay. So, with that, because I get this question a lot, did you start your firm and then take the exam? Or did you wait till you took the exam to start your firm?
I started my firm and then took the exam. But when I started my firm, I wasn't doing enrolled agent work. I was doing
Hmm.
bookkeeping, personal financial management, like just helping people understand their personal finances and their business finances. And I was also doing tax prep. And so when I took that exam, completely beelined into representation work. Because when I took the exam, that was the studying for the exam at that time was the first time that I ever really knew the impact of the enrolled agent career and a tax career, just period.
Hmm.
Learning all that I learned through studying for the exam, it just kind of elevated just like what my expectation, how I wanted to show up as a professional, all these things. But then also later I would realize how much I was missing in my professional development early on that that newcomers need to be successful quicker than maybe a lot of us was when we started.
I love that. And you all, I did not pay her to say that. There's work to be done before you pass the exam. There
Yeah.
is so much work to be done. People need us now more than they ever have, because I remember back, going back to 2008, somebody from the IRS coming in for recruitment, reaching out to her in like 2009, 2010, they were on a hiring freeze. They've
Mm,
been on a hiring freeze off and on like since then. And then we know January of 2025 came, and we've seen them go from 101,000 employees to around 71,000. Now they're trying to get people back, but if you're on the fence and you're like, there's not really anything I can do, the IRS is on the fritz, that means there's more work for you to do
Mhm.
because it's harder for people to DIY their tax problems now.
Mhm.
It's harder for us as professionals to get through. And that's why I tell people it takes a special type of person and personality to do tax representation work.
Yeah, for sure.
Not everybody can do it and do it right.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
So I'm going to go back a little bit to you talking about going out and getting your name out there, kissing babies if you had to, because people will tell me like, "Oh, I'm making posts on social media. I'm not finding clients," and I'm like, "I feel like you're not hungry." Because there are people out there, like there's this meal set before you, and it
Mhm.
takes so much more than one or two posts, even if you're going to go the social media route. But for you, when you were building your business, how did you get yourself out there? Like, was it networking events? Did you use social media? What did that look like for you?
I did a lot of networking events. So I was trying to join chambers and I was networking and just trying to, but you got to also understand in the process of me trying this, I was alone. I didn't have like a lot of people talk about having mentors and people guiding them. I got it. It was me, God, and then the motivation of my kids and eventually the husband and all that. So it was just like us. So I didn't have anyone who said, "Hey, this is how you do this thing." So
Mm-hmm.
I went out here and was like, "Hey, how you doing? I'm Anisha. Here's my card." And I was doing a lot of that. And then eventually I got onto LinkedIn and started over the years just started building relationships through LinkedIn. But I solidified a lot of my reputation in just building relationships and referrals. I don't, I don't, I'm really big on not playing about no anyone's money because I don't want you playing about my money. So,
Okay.
so I'm really big on protecting people in that way and helping people to protect themselves. And so people know that about me. And it's like people know that they can trust me and people know that if I say something, it gotta be the truth. And that's just that. So I built that reputation over some time. And even early on, I've never, when I left corporate, I've never struggled financially. I've never not been able to pay my bills. And I'm not saying that because I had thousands of clients. I'm saying that because from my perspective, you know, God turned that one loaf of bread into,
Listen,
into a year's worth of bill payments, right? So I'm just like, we were fine. We didn't I think I just led by really trusting that God had my back and understanding that God had my back. And I still do today.
awesome. I love that. Yeah, I tell people the same thing. I didn't have like an official mentor in this space. So there were amazing CPAs I knew. Like I said, some of the most brilliant tax minds that I know are CPAs, but they didn't have a business. Or I knew business owners. So really it was like, okay, God, I feel like you've called me to do this thing. You're going to have to light up the path so I know which way to go
Mhm.
because there is nobody out here guiding me. Um, but something else that you pointed out, yes, you had the faith, but we know faith without works is dead. You were still out here like, hey, my name is Anisha, here's my card. Social media, the internet is great till it's not. It's definitely good for somebody to be able to go and look you up, but you still have to go outside.
Mhm. Mhm.
You took the time to build your name. It wasn't something that happened overnight. And I appreciate you talking about that. Um, when you mentioned that, your bills, you all were taken care of, were there lifestyle adjustments that you had to make when you were starting out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wasn't rich to begin with when I started, right? So let me say this. When I started the business, when I left corporate, like it's funny because my son asked me a couple years ago, like, "Ma, how did you do this?" And I was like, God, like that's the only answer, right? I'm sorry. I'm not even sorry, but that is the only answer, right? So I left corporate. I had a month's worth of rent in the bank, and I had $2,500 on a credit card. That's what I had when I left. No one gave me anything. No one, helped me, paid my nothing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I say that to say, like, did my lifestyle change? One of the things I knew that I had access to because I was a single mom was government assistance. So I have always been good about tapping into my resources, so that I can help move things along. So,
Mm-hmm.
like I tell people, government assistance is no different than any other scholarship program. It's how you use it that determines how far you can go. And so I leveraged that to get to where I am. We went from a 2 bedroom condo, a 2 3 bedroom condo, to now, my husband and I, even when we got together, because we didn't have a lot, we can live on an acre. Our house is, pretty nice. We have stuff, and that was never the goal to have stuff. It's just about doing right and keep doing right and keep taking the right steps, and you're going to get to where you want to go. So when I switched from just doing the accounting and tax prep work to telling my husband in 2012, I'm going to go strictly to tax resolution. I don't want to do tax preparation anymore. That was a shift because I was like, okay, well, let me do this, pay these things off. And then all the clients I had in this space, I'm not going to be moving forward with them. So I had to start from scratch when I did resolution. So that was a shift in spending and awareness of our finances and things like that as well.
I got you, and I appreciate your transparency, giving us the, as my daughter says, the tea from the very beginning. But I didn't want anybody who may be listening to this who doesn't know you to go look at Facebook or LinkedIn and see you now and be,
Hmm.
oh man, I'm failing because like she was able to keep all her bills paid and think that you were living the way that you live right now when you started. It's
Yeah.
not, yeah, social
Mhm.
media is not the truth all the time, you guys.
Mhm.
You
And
see,
look, and quite honestly, you're not gonna find a whole lot of stuff on social media about me unless I'm promoting an event that I'm going to, because I just don't do a lot on there. I will
mhm,
more, but I just don't live there. Even from my business perspective, I'm really about real, genuine connections and finding ways to get out there and really, really have real relationships, even if it's business.
yeah, and I again appreciate your transparency and like you said, even with kind of being settled with the tax prep and what you were doing, you still had to make a shift to go just to tax representation. I haven't completely let go of tax prep yet, but like me and my husband have talked about it, it's a different type of shift because now, like I tell people on the show and in my mentorship program, nobody is out there like, hey, I owe $100,000, right? Whereas
Hmm.
tax prep clients, like it's a commodity, everybody needs it. It's not hard to find.
Hmm.
You got to be out there and be on your P's and Q's with the rep work to make sure that that's coming in consistently and to make
Hmm.
sure that you're taken care of.
Hmm.
Um, Look, I'm over here getting excited. Let me go back to my stuff. I got it down, so we can talk about this. So with your firm, Taxley, and focused on the rep work, what made you decide to only focus on that? Because we have people listening that they're like, okay, I want to become an EA. I'm going to only do prep. And I've softened in my position. I just feel like if you have the authority,
Then use it.
then you should use it because sometimes we have something and we don't realize what we have.
Hmm.
You don't, if you want to go become a CPA, that's cool, but you don't have to become a CPA to have more authority with the IRS. You don't have to become an attorney unless you want to go to tax court, but to have more authority with the IRS, people don't fully walk in the authority that they have. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox real quick. So if they want to do prep, that's cool, or planning. But for you, what made you decide, okay, I want to laser in on representing taxpayers.
So based on my background, it's a whole nother story. Advocacy comes natural to me.
Mm.
So when I learned that that was what I could do as an enrolled agent, I was like, yeah, this is up my alley all day. So I understand financial management. I don't look at tax resolution as, oh, fill out these forms and it's the numbers. No, it's a story. It's understanding people. It's helping people to craft their story. It's helping people to understand their numbers. I have people tell me I can't afford to pay the IRS, and I'm like, but you can. So let me show you how you can, and then let me help you to reframe that in your mind so that you can do that comfortably. And so, so that's a extreme. Then you have the other extreme of, no, you really can't. Okay, let me, because I have people who are like, I'm gonna try to pay them something, and I look like, but you can't. So let me show you how to do it from that perspective. So advocacy for me is, it doesn't start with the IRS. It starts with the taxpayer understanding and taking more control over their situation, so that when we get to that point, then we go to the IRS and say, okay, here's what we're gonna do. And then when I have a conversation with the IRS, it's very clear, and I don't need them to think about much. I just need you to go with what I say, because what I've already said makes sense to everybody. And so let's do that. So advocacy um, um, just comes natural to me. I don't like for people to feel like they don't have control. And when they don't, because they're so used to giving the control away, to be able to help them get it back, that was like, okay, this is kind of where this is where I'm well suited. And of course, since I've been doing it for over 10 years specifically, I've honed my skill. I've learned how to communicate more effectively. I've learned how to think through resolutions and financial strategies in ways that people have never, when they're like, I've never even considered this before, or I've worked with 3 or 4 firms before I came to you, and no one said any of this. So that makes me feel good. But then at the end of the day, when my husband can see all that and say, well, I want to do that too, that's a really big that's a big deal. So it goes back to, like, sometimes we don't even realize um, the power that we have, that impacts people in a positive way. So um, being in advocacy, being in resolution, that was a natural fit. Again, that was a natural fit for me.
I love the way that you explained it because when I'm talking to people, I'm like, if you can prepare a tax form, like you can prepare the paperwork, but it is the translation of that paperwork. And so we have the opportunity to tell somebody's financial story to make them look as pitiful on paper as possible, but yet legally.
Hmm. Hmm.
But using the tools that the IRS actually has provided us with to communicate that story.
Yes.
So I absolutely love that you've opened me up to go two different ways here. So I'm trying to think. um, so you mentioned your husband raising his hand up to say he wants to do that too. But before we get to your husband, one of the things that we connected on, I can't remember if it was, I think it was a few years ago because I met you in person last year at Fly In. So a few years ago, other than wanting to connect with excellence, right, off of social media, you have a program where you are helping others who want to become enrolled agents and do this thing right. Because for those of you listening, if you're not familiar, with the CPA exam, um, and of course, it's a little bit different in different states because that exam is administered through the state. You go to college, you have a certain amount of hours that you have to take, you sit for the exam, you have to have a certain amount of experience. But for the EA designation, there isn't as clear of a path. So there are different study materials that you can use to sit for the exam, but there's no college requirement, there's no experience requirement. So if you don't have community and mentors, you're kind of out here flying by the seat of your pants. So Anisha has actually created a solution to that. So I will let you Speak to what that is.
So, um, just like from the perspective of like create what you wish existed.
Mm-hmm.
In 2019, I started the process and of like, okay, how do I help? Because I wanted to help. I'm just gonna just give a little bit of background. I wanted to help entrepreneurs fix their own tax problems. But then my husband was like, "Why don't you help more people become, good at what they're doing as far as EAs and stuff?" And I said, okay." So going through that, going through that process, I was just kind of thinking about it more, and then that thought process and going through the process took me into apprenticeships. And so I was looking it up. What is it? What do apprenticeships require? What's the difference between an internship, a co-op, apprenticeships, things like that? And so, as a result of all of that, I worked with the Department of Labor,
Mm-hmm.
like 21, 22 time frame. Worked with the Department of Labor. I got support from NAEA. I got support from Surgeon. I got support from industry professionals. I even got support from people who worked at the IRS, who helped to champion the need for this pathway, this structured pathway, which apprenticeships provide. So I worked with the Department of Labor on the federal level to make the enrolled agent tax consultant an occupation. It was never an occupation with the Department of Labor. So once you make it an occupation, then you can at the state level make and at the federal level create registered apprenticeship programs. So through Taxley, I created the first ever registered enrolled agent apprenticeship program. And so I'm really extremely excited about it. It requires 2 years of on the job training,
Mm-hmm.
structured on the job training, because we dictate what that looks like. It requires 288 hours of structured education. So we provide the education and we structure how people need it. We work with our employer partners, and we're constantly building those relationships with employers to be able to say, hey, bring their staff into the fold of this program who may not be enrolled agents or who may have just passed the test and still don't know how to do the work, so that they can get the training. And then in the 2 year period, if they were not an enrolled agent coming into the program, they have to get their enrolled agent license before they can graduate the program. If they are already an enrolled agent, then that requirement's already been met. But they go through the 2 year program with their employer, who will be our partner, and get our education and mentorship throughout the 2 years so that they can have successful enrolled agent careers. So it matches the sentiment of the CPA, or
Mm-hmm.
doctors and lawyers who have to have experience before they get into the real world, or even as they're building up their skill set. So it matches that. It matches career focused education. So we're not talking about, go and get an accounting degree. This is broad. It's not preparing you for an enrolled agent career. And then we're also talking about through our program, you know, I think people miss the boat on the enrolled agent license from the standpoint of, to me, it's not just tax. Tax is the specialization that you have within there, what that designation means. But
Mm-hmm.
you could be a business advisor who has a specialization in tax law. You don't have to do tax work. You could be a person who chooses to research or to chooses to go on a legal end. You can do all kind of things with that baseline expertise in tax law. So if you want to get out there and advocate, if you want to be able to sit with um, older people and help them navigate, hey, can you navigate retirement? And people say, yeah, I'm ready to retire. And then you realize, like, you haven't even considered how much taxes need to come out of your social security or your check or whatever your finances may be. But just understanding that, whether I'm a CFP or anything else, that's the heart of what enrolled agents can do, and that designation means to me. So wherever firm you work for, depending on what that firm does, you'll be working through that process. So the apprenticeship program is extremely unique in this field. We have, so it's called Apprent EA. That is the program. That's the 2-year program. But for people who are looking to explore, is an enrolled agent career even right for me? We have Launch EA. And Launch EA is just an exploratory opportunity. You get resources like exam prep materials that you can choose from. We don't do exam prep studies. A lot of people out there who's already doing it. We're just here to support you as you go through the process. We're here to help you just get into an ecosystem where you can also meet our employer partners and possibly get jobs. When you are an apprentice, if when you get to that point, the minimum wage in our program is $17 an hour. So it's not a situation where you're going to come into a firm and they're going to want to pay you 10 and $12 an hour or 7 or whatever the case may be. Your employer pays you that minimum 17. They can pay you more. And typically if you're at a larger firm, they're going to come out the gate paying you more anyway. We just didn't want people starting this program lower than that.
That's awesome. And I hope the listeners are like, wow, and they clapped on their end because that's a huge accomplishment.
Thank
And, I have not started no apprenticeship program. But when people ask me like why I did this or why I've done like different mentorship programs, it honestly is just what I wish I would have had when I
you.
was starting out.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine like if something like that was available when I was going throughout this path. Who knows? I got family up there. I might have ended up in Cincinnati, but I would have felt more. I'm a type A personality, so I would have felt like more safe and secure with that structure to actually go in and be like, okay, this is how you do this. It takes the guesswork out. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying. Um, and if you don't mind speaking to, because it's on the job training, it's paid, speaking to the difference between like what a apprenticeship is and an internship. Because I did an accounting internship with a
Mm-hmm.
CPA firm. I did 70, 80 hours a week. I loved it because I was paid hourly and not salaried. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it was different from the apprenticeship because we focused on one thing. And of course, the plan there was to become a CPA.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would the difference be with this apprenticeship?
So internships are more informal. They usually don't have a time period where they need to last. You typically do an internship also in connection with a school program that you
Mhm.
might be doing for your credits and stuff like that. Um, the thing too is with internships, they are not required to make sure you are learning how to do the work. You could be pushing a broom for 3 months and you just have them on your resume, right? So there are no checks and balances as to what you are actually learning in that apprenticeship necessarily. It just depends on maybe the program you're in, but usually not really. Whereas and it's voluntary, it's informal. Whereas an
Mhm.
apprenticeship, it's a very formal, specific process with the Department of Labor. And so it has to meet certain guidelines. You have to track and measure progress. You have to pay people a minimum wage of whatever the sponsor sets. We are a sponsor and an educator and one of the employers in our program. So it has to meet certain guidelines. And when a person graduates the apprenticeship program, they get a degree equivalent, according to the Department of Labor. They get a degree equivalent after those 2 years that they can take nationwide and be recognized as having completed this program. And so with ours, you also, of course, have to have the enrolled agent exam or enrolled agent license. So you get both. So maybe you didn't want to go to college, or maybe you started and didn't finish, or maybe you did and you just, and now you have something that specifically says you went through this particular process. Also, let me say this with the apprenticeship, this is an investment where your employer invests in your education. A lot of times we just
Mhm.
go to school and then we hope to get a job, where this, you already have to have a job at a particular place at one of our signature employers, and which we support people with doing when they go through like our Launch EA program, things like that. Um, and the employer pays for the tuition. So now you know that everybody's invested in this, and you're not going to spend $100,000 in hopes to get a job outside of Starbucks. And no, not to people who work at Starbucks, but
Yeah, I know what you
paying
mean.
$100,000 for school to be a barista necessarily.
Hmm. Yeah, again, I shaking things with the Department of Labor and then doing the program is huge. So I most definitely hope that you've taken the time to appreciate the work that you've done. And like I said, it's a huge contribution as well to the industry and to the designation. Um, with that, I hadn't thought about the comparison you made. You know, when I hear apprenticeship, I think about electricians, plumbers, because the on the job training is important as well. But you comparing it to a residency, like the value of learning on somebody else's dime, one, but then having that careful supervision. Because I think one of the big fears of people going down this path is I'm going to mess it up. I'm going to mess up somebody's financial life, but you have that covering there with the apprenticeship. So, again, I know we're a few years down the road, but congratulations again on getting that done.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And we're piloting it in house so that when we, as we are constantly building the relationships with the employers and the students and getting people into the program, we're working out our kinks and getting all that together. So our goal is, like I said, we're piloting it in house right now. So we have our first apprentice. So I'm excited about that. And then we're just going to keep working it out so that in 2026, we can offer it to outside employers for them to actually start enrolling their employees.
That's awesome. So, if people are interested in this program, whether it's an employer or maybe it's somebody interested in the EA designation, where can they go to find out more information?
If they go to taxley.com, taxley.com, they'll be able to get everything they need to know. What they'll do is when they get on the homepage, they'll click Apprent EA, and then it'll have information for the employers, the career seekers, and also educators. So we are also partnering with schools to offer this as an awareness tool in the schools so that the students who may want to get into our Launch EA program, they'll be able to know their school will be able to help them get that going.
Awesome. So, for the people who are watching this, it is scrolling across the screen right now for the Enrolled Agent Apprenticeship Program. That's taxley.com. I always get my forward slash, my backslash mixed up. But then we have Apprent EA. I'll make sure that we have the link for the Launch EA so that both of them will actually be linked in the show notes as well.
Okay. All right. That sounds good. And just so you know, it's for the launch EA is going to be at Apprent EA / career dash seekers. Just so you
Okay.
know when you find that.
So people are multitasking. Go
Mhm.
back, pause, go back so you can write it down. No.
But they'll
Well,
be
that
able to go to the main site and see everything too.
okay. And yeah, I'll make sure that it's in the show notes because I will make the effort to go find stuff when people talk about it, but I want to make it easy for them.
Thank you.
So one of the things when we talked, you mentioned like incorporating family into business. And I'm talking a few years back, but I've actually seen it in action. So you all know if you're a listener, I talk about sitting back and watching people because there are a lot of folks out here that can be a lip service, right?
Mhm.
Or they'll tell you about all these amazing things within the Internal Revenue Code, but you watch them a little bit longer, and I'm like, they only read those 2 lines. They didn't dig into the code because right now they're contradicting what the code says.
Mhm.
So I saw your son actually actively working in your business. How did you incorporate your family into what you were doing as an enrolled agent?
Well, I've always wanted my family and us to work together. So
Mhm.
I'm always like, just trying to bring them along. But what I did though, because I knew that no one wanted to do tax work. I don't know why, but no one wanted to do tax work. What I learned is that how do I tap into what they are interested in? and
Mhm.
bring that to us being able to work together. And so, like when you saw Aaron, he was video, helping to do video and helping out when I was in the conference for the Capitol Hill fly-in with NAEA. And so I knew that he has the skill set to do video editing and video, and he has the skill set to do pictures and various things like that, and even in music. And so I just really learned, I had to learn this. I learned to tap into their skill set and say, hey, what do you want and how do you want to contribute, opposed to me saying, this is what I want from you. And if how they wanted to contribute didn't align, then that would just have to be fine. And it just would be a thing where we couldn't have done anything. But if it does align, then great. And so that's kind of how I approached it.
Wow, I like that parenting advice you just gave too. My daughter has gone from, "Oh yeah, mom, I want to do what you do and be an EA and da da da," to, "Would you be mad if I'm not an EA?" And like still wanting to contribute. And she heard me say she used to be my business partner. She's like, "Oh no, I still am." I said, "You don't work with me anymore." And she was like, "Well, I don't want to do this. What about if I help you with this?"
Hmm.
So that's awesome that you were able to tap into his talents. Because, like I said, you all, when I saw him, the man didn't just come on the trip to hang out, he was working. I said, well, shoot, now there's a legal tax deduction right there.
Well, let me say this though. When you met him, he was 21.
Hmm.
Everybody thinks he's like way younger, but he was 21. So when you talk about that parenting advice, like I didn't know that when he was 11. so yeah, take that and don't be so hard on the baby. And there's a
I'll
lot of
give
things I
myself
wish
some
I
grace.
could have. You say what?
I'll give myself some grace since I'm in that
Yes.
11 stage.
But yeah, so it took me some time to understand how I needed to get it together.
Understood. So there is something talking about tapping into different skill sets and getting your name out there. There is something that you and I believe your husband started.
Hmm.
Um, well, no, I know you and your husband started because I know part of the backstory that you now use. And again, tap into your husband's skill set to get the Taxley name out there, called Sora Bailey.
Hmm.
Will you tell us what Sora Bailey is? And I like to play on words there too.
Thank you, thank you. So, so Bailey is our exclusive dairy-free gelato brand. So, for those who don't know what gelato is ice cream, but better.
It's
It's
fancy. Yes.
it's way better. So, we wanted to tap into his interest in, because he cooks, I don't cook. I like to eat, I like to taste test, I like all of those things, that side of the counter. So he wanted to tap into a skill set that he developed in making dairy free gelato that is phenomenal. And so we say, okay, we're going to start this business and all these things. We had a commercial kitchen built on our property so that we could do everything from here, all these things. And about 6 months after we got all that going and we start selling it and all that kind of thing, we decided that we were going to just, instead of selling it like food services, we were going to incorporate it into Taxley. And it will be our unique swag. So if we're ever somewhere out in a conference or whatever, you're not going to get mints from us. You're going to get dairy free gelato to, just something cool and fun. But then we also use it as a way to elevate events that we sponsor. And so to get our name out there, we're actually able to tap into my husband's creativity, my interest in being the taste tester, and both of our interest in moving Taxley forward from the standpoint of us doing we still work with entrepreneurs and helping them resolve their tax problems and helping them course correct in their businesses, as well as we in our as a professional development platform, do our workforce development. So we're able to say, hey, we're going to have Bailey socials. We have people come out and we have great discussion and panel discussions and networking over Bailey. We have, have we're sponsoring an event. So we're sponsoring the National Business Education Association event in October, at the end of October, here in Cincinnati, and we're going to be a dessert sponsor for the happy hour. So that's a way for us to get our name out there, Taxley's name out there, through something that is delicious, cool, different, and so that's how we made all that work out.
Which is again awesome, like seeing what you want and then creating it. It has a bigger impact on just you.
Mm-hmm.
Cause that's one of the things I'm learning now too. Like God told me to do something, He's gonna tell me the way to do it, and I
Mm-hmm.
keep trying to make
Mm-hmm.
it easier. And He's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's not what I told you to do. But um yeah, thank you for the work you're doing in both paths. And you all, I have to get my life together because she's 90 minutes up the road. So I have to make it to a social so I can tell y'all how the gelato is.
Mm-hmm. So
Uh,
it's just so you know, we have one on the 8th, October. Well, a
so
week from today.
that's what I was going to say. So right after, I'll talk to you after this episode. Um, but again, like I said, I appreciate your time because I know you, Taxley, are on the move. The question that I like to ask before we leave is if there was anything that you could change in your journey of being an enrolled agent, what would that one thing be?
Hmm. I think now I would truly say that I wish I would have been still before now.
Mm,
Um, and from the standpoint of I'm gonna keep moving, right? And if we're asking God for help and we're asking for direction and we keep moving and we're like, well, tell us on the way, right? Opposed to being like, let me be still, let me sit here for a day, for a month, and just know that God has our back. We don't have to worry about if our bill's gonna get paid if God has our back, right? So if I wish I would have just known to do that sooner. And my
mm.
husband gave me plenty of opportunity. He was like, "Why don't you take off for 3 months? Why don't you relax? Why don't you?" And I'm like, "Okay." And then 2 hours later, all right, I got a whole new thing. I got the answer. So I just wish I would have been.
I feel like you're talking to me, not the audience.
So I'm just like, had I had to do it over again, I would have wanted to do a much better job, which is being still. And I think that would have given me more opportunities to connect more, even as a mom, as a wife, as a just
Mhm,
within myself, just connect more, to enjoy more, and not be as anxious as I have been over time, over the years, because we're just running a rat race that sometimes we don't realize we're running. And it's like, oh, but by the time you get to my age, I'm just like, okay, well, I didn't have to do all that.
mhm.
So,
Well, thank you again so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story, the insights. I feel like I'm going to have to go back and listen to this again too because you hit me from the mom's lens. That is the second time within 7 days that I've heard about being still and listening. So I appreciate that. If somebody wanted to connect with you online, where is the best place for them to find you?
I'll say find me on LinkedIn. And also, you can also always go to taxley.com if you're interested in learning more about how we're helping entrepreneurs with tax problems and course correcting in their businesses. Taxley.com. You can always attend an information session if you're interested in learning about the apprenticeship program. Sign up for an information session. So all of those things, I that's the best way to start getting to my space. And then, like I like to work with people who actually want to do something, and so That's how you can get to me. LinkedIn, Taxley.com.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you to the listeners who have tuned in. I told you all we were in for a special treat on tonight. Don't forget, if you found this podcast episode insightful, to let us know down in the comments, and make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss when the next episode comes out next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I will see you all then.